Epic is having their very first mega sale, but things are maybe off to a bit of a rocky start.
Are we seeing symptoms of a bigger issue?
Hot take!
I have been a fan of Epic for years and years and years, and let me tell you, it's getting harder to be a fan of them with weird practices they've been doing lately. It really has been weird.
Okay, well, we have to talk about Epic today, actually,
Yeah.
Shane. Did you hear the cold open?
Yes, I did.
So the Epic Games Store, they're having their first summer sale. It's called the Epic Mega Sale. It's probably going to be competing or trying to compete with what Steam does every year. They have the Steam Summer Sale, so this is Epic's version of that. It's going to be ending June 13th. It's on right now. So what's happening is a lot of titles are on sale, and titles that are $14.99 or more will be discounted by $10. This all sounds pretty cool for your average consumer that wants to pick up games on the cheap, but we've been noticing some problems with some of the titles on the storefront. So there are two titles that they were up and for sale for a short period of time, and then suddenly they vanished. Ooh, into the ether. So Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which I think you're kind of interested in, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it's an RPG.
Yep.
And there's a lot of talking and vampiring.
Sure, that's the things I like. It's
So-
more or less the game, but yeah.
Okay, so this title, it was up for pre-order, and it was up for sale,
Yep.
like I said, and then some people pre-ordered it, and then it was taken down. So it was found out that the publishers themselves had removed the game from the storefront, which was... what's going on?
That's weird.
If people were looking for that game right now, they would get a 404 cannot be found problematic screen, right? So there's another title, Oxygen Not Included. This is a title that's been out for a while now, and it's on Steam as well, and that's from Clay Entertainment. It's more of a survival space simulator, but that was pulled as well. So... what's going on here? Why is Epic Games... Well, it's not Epic Games pulling these games specifically.
No,
We're
as
finding
far
out
as
that
we know,
it's the
yeah.
publishers doing that.
Yeah.
So why would this be a thing? Well, some people assume that it may be because... okay, this sale, what it does is, like I said, it removes $10 from the overall cost. So a game like Oxygen Not Included, it was already coming in just a little bit over where that sort of price point kicks in, where they take off $10. It's at $14.99.
Sure.
So the price of Oxygen Not Included became very, very small. So sort of a weak theory is that the psychology of buying a very cheap game, if the game is for, let's say, $5 to $10 at one moment, and a lot of people see that, and then a sale ends and it goes back to its original price, which in this game's circumstances, it could be close to double that price. The psychology could be like, oh, it's devalued during the sale. It's not worth it at its full price. So that's one thing that people are kind of thinking. But there's another thing that these titles, Vampire the Masquerade and Oxygen Not Included, are on more than just the Steam platform. So when you're on more than one platform, you got to kind of wonder about the pricing structure of these things, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't want it to be on sale. This is a blanket thing on the Epic storefront, right? So if they don't want it to be on sale because they're on another storefront, it can be problematic. Maybe they want one solid price point throughout, or maybe they just want to choose whether or not they want it to be on sale on the Epic storefront.
Now, it could be that. Now, let's just say these games are just exclusives, because a couple of them actually are
Not these two that we spoke about, but some are.
But timed exclusives to this platform. Why wouldn't you want your game that isn't out to go on sale yet?
Yeah.
Okay? There's a big reason. If someone was excited about the game's announcement immediately, and they pre-ordered the game at the full price, and then a couple weeks later, a discount happened, kinda looks weird, right? Do those people now get a discount because they bought it earlier?
Right.
How do you go around that? You can't discount something that isn't out yet unless you're discounting it for everyone, and then the price rises when the game comes out.
It is odd. So you'd think that the consumer themselves would maybe cancel their pre-order and then order again.
Yes.
There are other titles, I have to say, on the Epic Games Store that are pre-order titles. Like that new John Wick game, for example, is up for pre-order as well. But that wasn't pulled. So it seems like there may be some issues possibly with messaging from Epic. And this is something that I really wanted to talk about today, was because it seems like it's not necessarily the publisher's fault that all this happened. They weren't just they didn't just suddenly.
You're right,
they
you're
weren't
right.
like the sales coming. Oh, now we're just going to pull it. It seems like this may have sort of jumped up out of nowhere. Like the sale was maybe a little bit rushed, and that's something that I did want to talk about today.
Yeah, this is going to be the majority of our conversation, folks. We think, shock, Epic is rushing things.
Yeah. They're taking a bit of a quick and dirty approach, and before we dive a little bit more into that, there was one more title on the Epic Game Store that was having some pricing issues. So Hades, which is developed by Supergiant Games, you may know them for Transistor or Bastion, a really great developer. Again, their title skewed a little bit like towards the cheaper side with this $10 off sort of thing if you're over $14.99. And yeah, at first the title was being sold for $6.99, and then it was reverted or changed to another price to $14.99, and now it's at $10. It seems like the issues with publishers goes beyond one circumstance or two, or like Hades wasn't exclusive to the Epic Store, so you would assume that there was more solid messaging between those developers and the publishers and Epic, the Epic Games Store. Yeah, so it worries me, and the more that I start thinking about this, the more that I was researching this, it just kept coming back to me that Epic seems to be giving a quick and dirty approach to just the way that their services work.
Sure. So look, at this point in time, we know that Epic likely didn't realize they were going to be making a storefront until Fortnite happened. Once Fortnite happened, they found themselves cash flush, and they decided, hey, what do we do with all this money? Hold it or start spending it on things? They decided to spend it on things, and boy, did they ever. Making a digital storefront as quick as they did with such many resources, but less time, means that they had to rush a lot of things out, like getting exclusive games and stuff. Sure. Now, you might assume that Adam and I would start bashing Epic because they have these exclusives and stuff like that. We don't care. Exclusives happen. We're console gamers, folks. We've seen this before. It's not that scary. The thing is, a storefront needs to work in such a way that makes sense, and the problems really isn't the exclusive nature of what they're doing. Now, there are some issues with a whole bunch of people pre-purchasing a game, and then that game was promised on a specific platform, and then the developers go, oh, now it's on this store.
Yeah, well, I would like to say that, and sorry to cut you off, that is a bit of a symptom of this whole rushing nature, where you're saying that you're okay with these exclusives being on the platform. Like, yeah, I know it feels weird that games are not on Steam, because Steam is like... It is the place that people go for PC gaming, right? But it's the way that Epic seems to have, again, the quick and dirty approach, where it's like, Metro Exodus, 2 weeks before it's released, and Steam keys are supposed to be going out to people and stuff very, very soon, and that gets snatched up, and that becomes an Epic Store exclusive. Many people were upset about that, but there's other games.
Yeah. Now, a lot of developers out there and a lot of people in the industry don't seem to see an issue with this. And they're blind because customers are angry, and rightly they should be, because they are expecting something on a specific platform. Now, I've had this conversation a bunch of times with a bunch of people, and they never seem to grasp this concept. Customers are always right. Period. End of sentence. End of debate. That's how it works. It doesn't matter if you are correct. The customer is always right. The moment you take the ability away from them to use their favorite digital storefront to collect all their games together, they're going to be angry. There are certain features that Steam has that Epic does not have. Can you imagine how angry people would be if they went, oh, this game's an exclusive to GOG.com, but you know what? We're going to pull it, and now it's going to be a timed exclusive on Steam. Do you know why people would be upset with that? Because GOG.com is DRM-free, and suddenly people that wanted DRM-free versions of their games are locked behind Steam's platform, which is a lot more restrictive in that regard. Now, if we were seeing some features at Epic that were like, okay, every game DRM free. When you buy one game on here, you get a second one for free. If there was something like that, I think people would be a lot more understanding of what Epic's trying to do. But it really feels like they're brute forcing their way in as fast as possible and not giving any value to the consumers, and that is a huge issue.
Yeah, very, very right. Yeah, it feels like every sort of point we'll make, it's branching off of the fact that they seem to be rushing things. You're talking about the services and what things what Epic has to offer. They're not offering very much. It's a rather shallow experience. We don't have a shopping cart. We're like months out from having a shopping cart. We have very few community sort of integration things. It's just so bare bones, and it feels like this was rushed specifically to tailor towards what would begin to get the ball rolling for the Epic Game Store more so than what they had first said that they would be, which is like a competitive, like great space for gamers to go to. The only people that seem to be,
which is a good idea.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. The only people that seem to be gaining anything from this at this point are the development teams.
That's true.
That possibly get some extra funding in the Steam store itself. When it comes to the actual consumers getting, like, we get a free game here or there. The sale seems like it would have been a good idea, but again, we're talking about them being quick and dirty with their tactics. There's confusion amongst a lot of the publishers that are selling games during the sale as well.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many things. We talked about Metro Exodus, but we can't forget Phoenix Point recently. Phoenix Point is it's supposed to be a game in the same vein as XCOM. That was supposed to be releasing on Steam and GOG as well. And again, the Epic stormed in and snapped them up. And then there was also the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds, many people might have assumed from the get-go it was supposed to be an Epic Store exclusive, but it was a little foggy, a little. Yeah. They were talking about Steam keys and things when they were first kind of showing that off. So yeah, it just seems like Epic has this strategy of just kind of rushing in and snapping things up, but it goes beyond that as well.
It does. Yeah. See, again, it's not that Epic is getting exclusives. Surprise, Epic makes an engine that a lot of people use, and because Epic knows who's using the engine and who's making games on the engine, they could have had agreements years in advance with developers and stuff, but from where we can see, they are rushing everything, and because they're doing that, they didn't have the time to go, okay, we're going to start a storefront in about a year. Let's start talking to people now and start signing people up in advance.
Sure.
That did not happen as far as we can tell, because otherwise Metro wouldn't have happened that way. Now, they've done their best to right the wrongs that they can. A lot of publishers are and developers are put into like a weird position where they now need to kind of look at a storefront where they can make a lot of money really quick, because Epic is paying developers and sometimes millions of dollars just to be on their platform. Plus, they get a higher cut. If you were a developer, you'd be pretty excited about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's great for developers, but the platform itself, when we're talking about the rush nature of things, it goes beyond like, okay, it might be a fine platform for developers to sort of garnish or gain some wages, but and it even goes beyond the community interfacing problems as well. Sure. But the actual structure of the service itself has had issues where people were finding things where Epic was possibly mining information from Steam. And then the CEO, Tim Sweeney, right? Yep. Tim Sweeney had basically said, okay, we were going to use your Steam information, and this was all in the, you know, what you could have read from the agreement, right? But they were data mining or mining Steam information in a form that they weren't supposed to do it unless you wanted to have your friends accessible on it. It was doing it beforehand. So like, if that doesn't show me the rushed nature of the company, they're like, that's not supposed to work that way yet.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What's going on?
Look, okay. This actually caused a huge problem, because for me, when I heard that was going on, the Epic Game Store got deleted from my computer instantly.
Right.
The reason that happened is because if they don't know what the program's doing, I'm actually worried about it, just because I have personal information that I don't want being accessed. I mean, like anyone, banking records, whatever it may be, you don't want that stuff accessible on there and open to anyone to see. Now, with that in mind, there was an argument out there that people were making because they were nervous about a company called Tencent, who has a very large chunk of control over Epic.
I looked into this a little bit. They have a 40% stake in Epic, and a lot of people were wary about that because some people think that Tencent being involved with Epic means possibly that some, well, we were just talking about data, them collecting your Steam data. There's a conspiracy theory, I would say.
It is a conspiracy theory.
So grain of salt. That information would be leaked back to the Chinese government. Or I don't know that I believe that.
Look, folks, I get that there's some people that are worried about that stuff. the Chinese government doesn't care if you play Pac-Man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not happening. But it's the other things that could be accessed from the program. The program shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the thing was, a lot of people were saying, Steam, Steam is like they do that all the time. Steam asks your permission before they sample your system. And I've been using Steam since day one. I'm one of the few people out there that can tell you what it was like all the way back when Steam didn't officially work that well. Steam started off in a whole bunch of weird ways, but one of the coolest things that Valve did was they started sending out like automated quizzes. And what it would do is it would basically look at your computer, sample the specs, and then ask your permission to send that information back to Valve to better their games. And you know what happened? Their games got better. A lot of people, it was free, it was blind faith. Like, maybe they're gonna use this information for good, maybe it's bad. But Valve has constantly proved every single time that they do things in a way to do it for good, as best as they can. They're a company, they screw up all the time. But I remember when they started asking for those things, some of their games simply didn't run well on computers. And then suddenly we started getting games that were like, as soon as they came out, they're like, wow, this just works on my computer, like top settings and everything.
So like, I kind of, there's enough problems without the whole conspiracy, the whole Tencent thing being an issue. And keep in mind, Tencent is not just involved with Epic Games. Tencent is enormous, and they have a large stake in many companies. They dabble with companies like Blizzard, and like pretty well across the board, there's a little bit of Tencent in almost every single like major publisher.
Exactly, folks. If you're worried about Tencent, it's done. You already own a game by them, most likely. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing you can do there. If this one little thing is what worried you about Tencent, you are way out there with how many games they actually have their hands on.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that there's already enough like Swiss cheese in what is this Swiss cheese holes in what is this Epic Game Store service that you don't have to lean on a conspiracy theory to be a little frustrated with what's happening. So like it just seems like every single step of this service, there's always a stumble. And I understand that it is a brand new game store, and yes, there's going to be a growth period and stuff, but it seems like, to me, that strategically they should have sat on everything that was the Epic Games Store for a little bit longer. Like, did they really have to dash, you know, before the starting pistol goes off and just start buying things up and then like get the store? Could they have not rested on their laurels a little bit, set things up, spoke to many developers and publishers, you know, you're already set up on Steam. Okay, well maybe we shouldn't. You know,
it really is.
But the thing is, when it comes to the Epic Game Store scooping up exclusives, if they wind up getting a publisher or developer to come over to the Epic Game Store, it's not Epic Games that should like.
They should.
I get what you're saying. I know it's so hard for me to say this because like I don't love what they're doing, but they're not the ones that should be getting the flack. Like they're just kind of like Terminator going in, I take, but like it's the publishers or developers that are like, oh, money. And that's, you know, and I mean, if a consumer has backlash, it should be with those folks.
Look, there are messaging problems. There are social forward-facing problems that Epic is dealing with right now that they could easily be fixing to kind of better consumers' perspective on what the company's trying to achieve here. There isn't a bad thing about having a competitor for Steam. It's a good idea. Steam having a competitor can only make Valve work harder to make Steam better. There's nothing wrong with that, folks. And I think that's something everybody kind of wants,
Remember when we had our first hot take on this? We were very positive about it because we wanted to see what would happen with another kind of player in the market space.
Absolutely,
a big player, right?
I downloaded the Epic Game Store right away as soon as we found out about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit sad to, like, with every single thing that comes out, there's always some sort of a stipulation that's like, oh, well, this is troublesome here, this is troublesome there. So.
Like, there's all the, like I said, there is a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of people that are thinking about things and all this stuff, like these companies are evil. Epic isn't an evil company. They just happen to have a lot of money right now, and they're trying their best to spend it, and they're not thinking about the steps, right? It's just like Tencent isn't actually an evil company. They're a company like anyone else trying to make video games and stuff. In fact, the whole conspiracy theory that people have about Tencent stealing your information and giving it to the Chinese government, whatever, that's not true, because Tencent has actually been having problems with the Chinese government in China trying to release their own games because they keep banning certain game franchises, which hurts the company. Why would the government do that to their own company if that was the case? The whole thing doesn't make sense. It falls apart really quick.
I'm a little scared from the Epic Game Store side of things. I said a little bit early, it's like, the candle that burns twice as bright. It goes out, half as it burns out. It burns for half the. I'm doing it, George.
Fire that burns fast burns quickest with gasoline. Fire. I know what you're trying to say.
It burns for half the time, is what I was trying to say. Fix me in the comments, please. But yeah, I'm worried that they're just kind of throwing all their money and all their effort, and if things don't catch, if that ball doesn't start rolling, if the snow doesn't start collecting on that ball that's going down the mountain, that is the Epic Game Store. Then maybe things will just fizzle out, and then we'll have like an empty competitor.
That's what I'm worried about. See, okay, here's my thing. Right now, we have got a ton of people that are really excited about a competitor on the scene for Valve. But it's not like we haven't seen these before. There have been other digital storefronts that I've actually have memberships at that don't exist anymore. And the games that were on that platform disappeared. That's not good. You don't want that to happen. Valve has established such a long line of history with how they treat games and customers that you can kind of expect them to stay around for a very long time. With Epic making what they're making, we don't know if they're going to burn through all their money and then not be around in a year or two. Now, obviously, Epic is one of those companies that could be around for a lot longer because they have an engine that they make money from.
That's true. Yeah, it's not just Fortnite. A lot of people jump to the whole, it's Fortnite money. When Fortnite goes away, they're gone. Yeah. That's not true.
By the way, if it had not been for Fortnite doing what they did and stealing the player-unknown Battlegrounds formula and putting it, I know it's not stealing. It was. I don't care what anyone wants to say about that. They took a game and they took the exact same concept and philosophy of the game, then took their failed game, which was Fortnite, and stuck that format in and gave it away for free. That was the only way they could have beat their competitor on the market, and they did. Smart business practices, okay? Capitalism, baby. But what's important about this is that before that had happened, they had a bunch of games that weren't working for them. They weren't selling very well. People weren't reviewing them really well. Fortnite became a massive success. If Fortnite were to go away, can they make another game that's going to bring people back, or is it all going to be related on the engine? Are they spending all this money right now because they have all this money coming in on Fortnite, and they're afraid that Fortnite isn't going to be able to stay around forever, so they want a storefront right now so that they can make money in that way? They're really good to developers and publishers as it stands, but what happens if tomorrow they decide that, you know what? We're losing money on Fortnite. We're raising the prices, and now we're going to become the de facto place for people to get exclusive video games because we've already pre-signed a whole bunch of people for years and years. And these developers are stuck in contracts they can't get out of. Right?
Yeah.
You got to think about this. This has happened before with multiple different companies. We've seen these things happen. I can't even tell you how many digital storefronts I have personally used. You know, what was the streaming one? Game Live, was it?
OnLive.
Thank you. OnLive. I had like a game or two on OnLive, and then it was gone. Yeah. And now that one's a cloud service. By the way, in the future, we are going to be talking about Google Stadia a lot more because the concept of ownership goes right out the window when there's no physical window in the ownership scenario and you don't actually physically own anything. But Epic is in a really weird position. What they need to do now is do basically this. Give consumers far better access, a promissory note of where these games are going to be in the future, have somebody, anyone at the Epic storefront company, someone at Epic, just to be like, hey, let's just make someone with a Twitter account that talk to people and not Tim Sweeney. It's not that Tim Sweeney's a bad person. He's not. He's one of the best video game coders, one of the smartest industry people in the industry for video games. But social media is really new, and you need somebody with a soft hand to deal with that stuff, not a fist. And right now, some of the things he says can scare consumers easy, and there's no reason for that. Epic should be praised for what they're making right now. Not attacked, but it's just working against them because they've got the wrong message going out to everybody.
I think one of the best ways to make that message a positive message is, not only getting out there and speaking to the public, but proving it.
Yeah.
Like, get in there, you hit your beats. I want to see them surpass, because they have a roadmap of what they want to do for the future. I want to see them surpassing what they have lined up, because like a shopping cart 6 months down the road or something is silly to me. That seems so bizarre. It takes that long to integrate that into the service.
It really, it's
cloud
crazy,
saves and things. Like, they need to be hitting their beats. And when they have something, just to swoop back around to the summer sale, when they have something like a sale, it can't just seem like the developers and publishers should not seem surprised.
Yeah.
And they should not be like, well, what's happening?
Okay.
No, stop. Wait, how about they integrate into, Shane, how about they integrate into their sale? You don't want to partake in the sale? Press this button.
Okay.
Valve. How about that? How about you don't need to take your whole game off the service?
Valve with Steam, has made sales and they seem to work out great for them. Consumers are happy, developers are happy. It's an event. When Steam has a sale, you see that animated GIF of Gabe Newell with money falling from the sky on Twitter. Everyone does that. Social Blade, Twitter, Instagram, it flies around. People become excited. When Epic did it, games disappeared from the storefront.
That's right, like magic.
There's like 50 developers that are games on the platform right now, maybe less. I don't even know. But you couldn't make 50 phone calls and just be like, "Hey guys, we're going to be doing this in a week."
Yeah.
It's nuts. It really is.
It's so bizarre, and I think I left this out, but I do want to mention Epic was like kind of taking the bullet for those price reductions too.
Oh, that's something we should mention. Yeah.
There's like so very little reason that this could be a bad. Like, the developers should be like, "Oh no, that's great. Like, we're going to be making around the same amount of money."
Developers didn't lose any money out of this. That's the crazy thing. It's just because you're devaluing the cost of the game,
there can be issues. Yeah, and you should be able to select, oh no, I would rather not participate in the sale because whatever reason. You shouldn't even have to give a reason. It's your media, unless there's some sort of a contract.
Because what it comes down to is this. Consumers will go to wherever the cheapest place is to get their game, period. That's how it's going to happen. If you see a game that is more expensive on one platform over the other, it has to offer something valuable. For instance, when we look at portable games being released on, let's just say, Switch versus Xbox or PlayStation 4, and a Switch version tends to sell maybe $10 or $20 more, simply because it's using a different kind of cartridge medium. If that happens, a lot of people are like, well, that's just because Nintendo's better at selling games. No, it's because they have a portable platform, and some people want that game anywhere they go. That's the success rate there. That's why you have that stuff happen. So what Epic needs to do is introduce some reason to use their storefront.
Yes.
Whatever it is. Every time you buy a game, you get a free slice of pizza. It doesn't matter. Something.
Steam has trading cards.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Okay, we should probably wrap it up.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. Woo! This was a lot more heated than I was first anticipating.
It directly affects us. I buy video games digitally all the time, and for me, I trust Valve, I trust GOG, I trust a lot of other digital services that I probably shouldn't have trusted in the past.
Yes.
But the ones that I do trust have stayed around for a long time. A lot of people get worried about Uplay or Origin. I don't. They're game developers that make games. They're going to be around for a while. I don't think those storefronts are going to shut down tomorrow. And even then, they still happen to sell their games on a lot of other platforms because they're not stupid. They want to make money. You know what I mean? It's not insane to think that this is how people should operate. And having a new storefront should be a celebration.
That's right.
More options, more features.
Especially your very first summer sale. This should be a big deal, and it should go off without a hitch and not scare, especially the people that have their media on your service.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, if you wanted to get... Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Yes.
If you wanted to get that, big name for a game, if you wanted to get that, where do you get it right now?
I believe it's also being sold on Steam as well as on Epic Games. It's not exclusive.
But if there was an exclusive, and it was only on Epic and then it just disappeared, that would have been it for like the game pre-selling for days and days or weeks or possibly months. It's not a good thing. Anyway, folks, what do you think? Are you excited for the concept of sales that just get rid of games all of a sudden, and in some cases don't work out that well?
Yeah. What do you think about this kind of quick and dirty approach to the Epic Game Store that's happening right now? Do you got a little bit of the fear in you?